So can you talk to us about like how Diddy like ran his organization, what he would do here? Because we talked about the lawsuit that Lil
Totally.
Rod.
So now we've got all these data points. Let's like zoom out and
Yeah.
sort of talk about like and not really mince words. Like everything I'm about to say is kind of speculation, right?
Okay. All
Based
right.
upon the evidence that we have.
Okay.
So just treat everything I'm about to say like speculation. And I'm
Okay.
just going to not
This
mince
is just
words
from
about
the
what I
facts that
kind of
you've
think.
gathered. This is
And this is
like,
just my opinion,
yeah,
but
the facts you've gathered. This is kind of the conclusion that you've come to, right?
yeah,
From
from what
looking
we
at the
know right now, it
lawsuits.
looks to me like Diddy was running a sexual blackmail ring in the music industry on behalf of his mob handlers, that is like the background of the music industry and has been for a long time. And so he's running this sexual blackmail ring by basically being in the middle of Hollywood. He's famous. He throws all these crazy parties, and those parties sort of have tiers where like lots of people get invited, and then the after party is sort of like, if you know, you know, and you can stay. And he's definitely they're definitely like all fucking each other, but they're also pretty clearly also fucking young stars like Justin Bieber, like Usher when he was younger. Lots of those guys. Lots of boys, lots of girls, but it also sounds like they are trafficking children in from the trafficking industry, like not kids of fame, not kids from Hollywood, but actually just like disposable children.
Mhm.
And I'm starting to suspect that lots of kids are being killed or just dying from this abuse or from some of the like more sick, dark kind of rooms that are happening at some of the parties, probably. Because that's kind of coming out of the whistleblower space, and people are still afraid to talk about that more like, the unalive kind of stuff. He's definitely, there's drugs everywhere in every direction. Everyone's doing all kinds of drugs willingly and unwillingly, and we know that from lots of lawsuits.
Yeah.
And it all adds up to sort of like the guy was put in place in order to manage our culture, in order to manage the music industry, in order to create blackmail and create debauchery, to fill the prisons, to sort of like debase the culture, to undermine the family, to undermine black culture. Like it just looks like that's what's been going on for decades here. And then he starts to get high on his own supply of power and just like gets more and more reckless and more and more reckless. And they are protecting him all through this time. But it seems like eventually it got hard enough to protect him, or enough came out, or like maybe like it kind of looks like Cassie just was brave enough to file a lawsuit at the right time when it was like the climate was such that it was hard to kind of put a lid on it, and her lawsuit was salacious enough, and then it spurred enough other people to want to file lawsuits that they were kind of like did the math and realized like, we got to cut ties with Diddy. We can't protect him from this, and he's already a liability. And I assume they've already got Jay-Z ready to step in and fill his shoes, because everyone in the industry is talking about how Jay-Z is just as bad as Diddy. Jay-Z's at all these parties, DJ Khaled is at these parties, Drake is at these parties. All these guys are fucking each other. They're all swapping wives, and they're all swapping booty holes. They're all throwing baby oil around like crazy. Um,
Baby was big.
Basically every male rapper that runs in those circles, it sounds like, and I mean, obviously it's not all of them, but at this point, it seems like it's more of them than not, because that kind of seems like how you have gotten a record deal over the last 30 years is like have some sort of blackmail on you, be willing to do some sort of stuff, do some favors for some people. The whole industry feels pretty damn corrupt at this point.
Shit.
That's the overview of what's going on. And that implies that Diddy is tied into the human trafficking networks in some amount, whether it's Diddy directly or whether it's his handlers like the mobsters, Fahim Muhammad, the people around him that are just supplying kids and girls and stuff. It implies that he's definitely tuned into the drug networks, obviously. He's tuned into the weapons and illegal weapons networks. So he's tied all throughout these black market industries.
Well, he
And
had an
they're all tied to each
AR-15
other.
with the serial numbers obliterated in one of his homes.
Exactly. So it's hard to understand exactly how much Diddy was in charge of his operation, but I find it impossible to believe that he was actually at the top in any way. Like, both from how he was brought up and put into position by Clive Davis, and then later Lucien Grange was overseeing him. Same early life story. And Lucien Grange is the CEO of
Let their
Universal Music Group,
pockets
and
grow.
Universal is like 1/3 of the music industry right now. Universal Music Group manages Taylor Swift, like all of the satanic weird stuff that's happening in music right now. A lot of those songs are coming out of Universal Music Group, and a lot of these record executives are related to each other, tied into each other. Like Lucien Grange's son, Elliot Grange. Here's a fun one. Elliot Grange is at Atlantic Records. He's in sort of like in one of the other thirds. There's like three big music kind of like
Pull this guy up.
umbrellas.
His
Sort
name
of.
is Elliot Grange, you said?
Yeah, Elliot Grange.
Okay.
That's Lucian Grange's son. Lucian is in charge of Diddy and Universal Music Group. Elliot Grange is coming up through the ranks over at Atlantic Records, and he just recently changed and got a new position and got elevated. But Elliot is in charge of Ice Spice, right? And you remember how Ice Spice suddenly is best friends with Taylor Swift?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Ice,
Super
it's
Bowl
like,
together.
why is like
Elliot Grange. What's
country
the other
Taylor
one?
Swift
What was the other name
hanging out
again?
with the twerk girl, like the Down syndrome twerk girl, right?
Who's the other? Elliot. I got Elliot Grange here, and then who was the other one?
His dad, Lucian Grange.
Lucian Grange. Let me look this up. And I look at the
and
early
so-
life every single time.
And so Elliot Grange is like coming up through the ranks, and his star that he brought on the scene is Ice Spice. Like that's his like twerk star, and she's his number one star. And then it just so happens that his number one star, Ice Spice, just happens to become best friends with Lucian Grange's number one star, like Daddy's top star, Taylor Swift. So to me, that looks an awful lot like Taylor Swift has a contract for her boyfriend, and she has a contract for her best friend, and that's how you can start to promote this like degeneracy in the Taylor Swift crowd by just get Ice Spice up there with no clothes on and make her shake her ass, like, because that's all she does.
Upside down cross of the Super Bowl and all this other bullshit throwing up satanic signs.
Absolutely, yeah. And so that's just to show that like the whole music industry, they're all tied together. Like they all know each other. They've all worked together. They've all brought each other up. Almost every single one of the executives, and a lot of them probably or certainly have ties to the mob in various forms. And all of sort of like, and this has been how the music industry has been for a long time, is like mobsters and gangsters teaming up to make music, but also to, you know, sell drugs, launder money, throw parties, all this other stuff. And that's just the history of the music industry. And today it's particularly perverse because it includes all this other child stuff and all this SA and all this blackmail.